When it comes to premium, long-range, fully electric SUVs, the Ford Mustang Mach-E was among the first out there to truly challenge the dominance established by the ubiquitous Tesla Model Y. In fact, when this car first came out in 2020, it was very controversial thanks to the Mustang name. A lot of purists really hated the fact that Ford called this a Mustang. However, it has done wonders for the Mach-E because what we have here is an electric SUV that's a good size, that's attractive, that's quick, that's sporty, and it also offers over 300 miles of electric-only range. Now, since then, the Mach-E has grown to become the second best-selling electric SUV on the market, with Ford doing nearly 40,000 units in 2022. And for 2023, the Mach-E stays pretty similar, although some versions get some new software along with a new battery pack on the standard range model. So as you can see this week, we are driving this 2023 Mustang Mach-E Premium with the extended range battery and the dual motor all-wheel drive system. And the big question I want answered, if you guys are looking to dip your toes into the fully electric space and you don't want a Tesla, how does the latest 2023 Mach-E stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, because this is a fully electric SUV, a lot of people always wonder, does this vehicle have a frunk? And this is where the Mach-E continues to impress because it doesn't just have a frunk, it has one of the biggest frunks in the segment. And I also like the fact that Ford has finally made it more practical, which they technically made that change back in 2022. Now, underneath this big, long hood where it's supposed to accommodate an engine, that's, again, giving us the proportions of the Mach-E is because of the Mustang name, we do have a very generous frunk. In fact, Ford says there's around 4.7 cubic feet of total space in here. It's covered. You can also lock it, obviously. And unlike the earlier renditions, which had basically like this kind of partition that divided it into like 4 different quadrants, Ford removed that in 2022. So now we basically have a big frunk. It does have a little bit of a light in here along with an emergency release. There's also a drain, so you can use this as a cool box. But since we're underneath here, let's go ahead and talk about the performance figures or the powertrain specs. This model here that we're testing has the extended range battery pack, which means it has 91 kilowatt hours of usable capacity. That's up versus 88 in the early 2021 models. If you guys go for the standard range model, you now have a usable capacity of around 71 kilowatt hours. It also got a new lithium iron phosphate battery pack, which did improve the range. The lowest range models of the Mach-E will now do 224 miles. Most will do around 250 miles. However, this extended range model basically gives you the bigger battery pack, and with the dual motor all-wheel drive system, we're looking at 346 horsepower, 428 pound-feet of torque. Now, that number is pretty much average with the class. A Tesla Model Y non-performance offers around 380 horsepower. The Hyundai Ioniq 5 with dual motors and the EV6 offers around 320 horsepower. It all goes out through a 1-speed reduction gear transmission. It has an electronic all-wheel drive system that's courtesy of a front electric motor and a rear electric motor. There's no physical connection between the two motors, obviously. And Ford claims this model here should do 0 to 60 in around 4.8 seconds. It has a top speed of around 114 miles an hour. And sadly, here in America, the Mach-E is not rated to tow. It's not recommended by Ford, although in Europe, this model can tow a little over 3,000 pounds, so I'm not sure why Ford isn't allowing the US spec Mach-E to be able to tow. It is an SUV after all. In terms of the curb weight, this is a heavy vehicle thanks to the skateboard architecture and the large 91 kilowatt hour battery pack, which will do up to 290 miles of range. It weighs in at just under 4,900 pounds. In contrast to something like the Ford Explorer, a 3-row SUV, that weighs around 4,500 pounds. So obviously this is heavy, but it's not really that much heavier versus the Hyundai and Kia Twins or even something like the Volkswagen ID4. But let's go ahead and close up the hood and talk about the exterior styling. Now, this particular one that I'm showing you is painted in a new color for 2023. It's called Carbonized Gray Metallic. It actually is not a new color for Ford. We've seen this color on other Ford products, but it's new for the Mach-E this year. You can see the color definitely looks good on the lines of the Mach-E. I love all the metallic sparkles that you see in the paint with the sun hitting it. It really works well on the lines. Because this is a Mustang, the hood is nice and long, which again gives it that Mustang look at the front, along with the headlights. There are really no styling changes for this car, although Ford did introduce a new night pony package, which basically blacks out the wheels, blacks out some certain accents. My tester doesn't have that, but all Mach-Es come standard with these full LED headlights, which are projector style. You can see there's a sequential LED turn signal, LED daytime running lights, LED low and high beams, no fog lights. And then on this area here, the Mach-E doesn't offer fog lights, but you can see this area is unpainted. And then we have that grille, which kind of is grille. Technically, there is no grille, but it kind of almost looks like a mustache. That's something that a lot of consumers and journalists were saying when this car first came out. The Mustang logo there again is front and center, nice and proud. If you guys go for the GT or GT Performance, that logo will illuminate. Only the GTs have that. And then down here, you can see there are some active grille shutters along with parking sensors, which are well integrated. You get a front camera system. That's included, of course, on this premium grade. But overall, I think this car is still very attractive. I mean, even though Ford has been selling these vehicles really well since it came out, it still turns some heads on the road. People appreciate the fact that it's a Mustang, but it's also, you know, an electric SUV, because once you get past the Mustang name, it is a very attractive vehicle. Now, this car is built technically on a modified D3 architecture, I believe. This is the same architecture as the Ford Edge, but it's been heavily modified to accommodate that skateboard battery pack. It has a 117.9-inch long wheelbase, so extremely long wheelbase, and its overall length is a little over 185 inches long. So this is a little bit longer than a Ford Escape, but obviously not quite as long as the Ford Edge. So it's a large compact SUV or a small midsize, depending on how you look at it. In terms of the ground clearance, this car only offers around 5.9, so you're not going to be doing some off-roading in this vehicle, but you can see the wheel arches are gloss black painted. These are the 19-inch wheels that you get standard on the premium grades. You can also get a night pony package that'll black out the wheels. That's new for 2023. The brakes measure 14.3 inches in the front, 13.5 at the rear. You have a 4-piston caliper at the front. The GT Performance ups the brake rotor size to a little over 15 inches, and you get the red painted caliper. Keep in mind the GT technically has this brake, but with a red painted caliper, not the Brembo caliper. You can see the tires are 225 by 55 R19. It's squared around the vehicle, and these are a Michelin Primacy all-season tire. It's a good tire. Really nice looking wheel. I actually prefer these wheels versus the wheels that you get on the GT trim. Now over here is where you actually charge the vehicle. It currently comes standard with a J1772 CCS combo. Ford says they will be adopting the NAC Tesla charger sometime next year. Until then, you'll be able to use an adapter, and Ford says that the current Mach-E will accept up to 150 kilowatts of DC fast charging. With the extended range battery pack, the smaller battery only accepts up to 111 kilowatts. That's good to take you from 10 to 80% in about 30-ish minutes. On a level 2, this will take about 10 hours to charge on a 48 amp level 2. Basically overnight. Ford says that when they adopt the Tesla plug, which they're going to be doing that next year, you'll be able to start going to Tesla charging stations, supercharging stations by the spring of 2024. Again, this is just a manual door, but overall, I like the placement of it. I think it's in a really good location. The mirrors, you can see these are power folding. They're black painted with a integrated turn signal. And then all GT Mach-E's will come standard with the glass roof. It's standard on the premium. Lower trims will have a black painted roof. You can see it's like fully glass roof, panoramic roof that doesn't actually open. The Mach-E was also one of the first vehicles to introduce this kind of flushless design with this door handle that is electronic, that looks really good. The entire side profile of this car definitely looks concept car-y because it doesn't have door handles that kind of stick out like a sore thumb. It's all for aerodynamics. Now looking at the rear, the Mustang styling continues here, and it's still a really good looking car. It's got that signature triple taillight design with the sequential LEDs, the LED brake lights. It's got kind of like that sloping roof design to give this more of like a fastback appearance. It's got the Mustang logo at the back, versus on a GT, it'll say GT on the back. And then obviously reverse lights are down there. There's no visible exhaust tips. Again, this is a fully electric SUV. Now looking at the cargo area, the Mach-E continues to be pretty average or competitive depending on what you're used to. This car, it has just under 30 cubic feet, around 29.7 cubic feet of storage space. It only comes with 2 rows back here. Look underneath here, there is some underfloor storage, which is great. You also have a fix-a-flat kit along with an air compressor kit. Your mobile charger is underneath the floor here. Technically, Ford charges you $500 extra for that mobile charger. Fold down the seats, it expands the capacity to just under 60 cubic feet, which is again pretty average for the class. But I think most of you are going to find this space along with the front trunk space to be very, very competitive and very, very useful. So the exterior of the 2023 Ford Mustang Mach-E pretty much still looks the same on the outside, but what about the interior? Before we get inside, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see this is the intelligent access key fob that every Mach-E comes with. You can see it's the older Ford style key. It's a really large key fob with the Mustang logo on the back. It has your usual buttons for unlock, lock, power liftgate, and panic. I don't particularly like this key. I think it's too big and bulky, but again, it does work extremely well. And if you guys don't want to use this key, Ford does offer their phone as a key feature, which I've used in my real world testing when I owned a GT for a year, and I have to say the Ford's phone as a key does work extremely well. Now, as you approach the vehicle, you can see there are no visible door handles here. Instead, there's kind of this little area where you can grab the door. To open it, you basically just push that button. That will basically push the door out, and you can grab this area here to kind of pull the door towards you. The mirrors are also power folding, although I don't have them set to actually fold right now. But as you can see, my test car with the carbonized gray exterior has the black ActiveX interior with the contrasting white stitching. You can see this is a faux synthetic leather material. The seats are also heated but not ventilated. You have a 12-way power front seat along with 3-person memory here on the driver's side. These seats, they look good. You can essentially get a space gray seat as well, which is a light gray if you guys don't want the black, but it looks good with the contrasting stitching and some of the faux carbon fiber trim. Now on the door panel here, you can see there's actually a beautifully soft touch material here, which almost feels like it's covered in leather. This area here is actually leather, or the fake leather that's on the seats. And then down here, it's nice and padded with the contrasting stitching. Windows are one touch for all 4, which is definitely nice. They have a high quality feeling switchgear. There's a 15 speaker Bang & Olufsen stereo system, which sounds really good for those of you who are audiophiles. Down here, it is hard touch plastic. There is some door pocket storage there, which is nice. And then you can see here, in case you forgot, this is a Mustang. It greets you on the side sill when you first open up the door. Now, getting inside this interior, with 5.9 inches of ground clearance, it has somewhat of a more car-like step in height. But obviously, if you're used to a regular gas Mustang, this is going to feel a lot higher. As I get in and shut the door, the door has a relatively solid sounding thunk, which adds to that impression of quality. Now, the rest of this dash hasn't really changed. The steering wheel, as you can see, is a 3-spoke design, not a flat bottom wheel. It's essentially the same steering wheel that you get on other Mach-E models. It's leather wrapped, although I will say that Ford could use a nicer feeling leather along with the stitching. But again, it's kind of me nitpicking a little bit. The start-stop button is right here where you'd expect it to be. Unlike some AVs where you get in and just hit the brake, Ford gives you that traditional button that you have to put your foot on the brake, push the button, and that's what'll turn the vehicle on for you. Now, all Mach-Es also have a really good amount of tech. So in front of me here, unlike Tesla's, like a Model Y, for example, you have a 10.2-inch actual instrument panel that shows you all the information you need, like range, driver assist information, your transmission selector, your speedometer and whatnot. Over here, you get that massive 15.5-inch Sync 4A infotainment system, which includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It also has over-the-air updates. This software here has also seen some changes since I first got into a Mach-E, which was nearly 2 years ago. But you can see door panel or dashboard material up here is a hard touch plastic. There's kind of like this really cool big like speaker that's covering the dash here with the fabric over here. You can see down on this lower portion, there's that fake carbon fiber trim, actual stitching here. The build quality of the Mach-E has always impressed me. That's pretty much the same for this 2023 model. The steering wheel offers a manual tilt and telescoping adjustment, which is nice. There's the sensor there for when you guys option in the Blue Cruise. My tester is missing that Blue Cruise option. The horn, it sounds good. It's nondescript, but it also doesn't sound puny. It sounds appropriate given the size of the vehicle. And then down here you can see there's a big center console storage area where you have a space for your wireless phone charging. Only on this side, there's space for another phone, I believe, on this side, although it's pretty tight if you really start putting 2 big iPhone 14 Pro Maxes there. There's a USB-C and a USB-A charging port, cup holders here, and then there's a nice padded area here for your gear selector, along with your electronic parking brake. That's for the auto parallel park feature. And then the center console, you can see, flips open to reveal another lid there where you can use that to hide some stuff underneath this like console armrest. Now, in terms of the infotainment system, you can see this is the wireless Apple CarPlay. I like how it's now full screen or almost full screen. The graphics and icons are large for those of you who can't see very well. Push the home screen there. You can see there are your different apps where you can go to different sources. You can go to your radio, your charging information, your energy. You can also do a sketch pad if you want to draw on it. There's also an entertainment portion where you can pull up YouTube. You can also play games. That's very similar to what Tesla does. So it's nice to see Ford kind of giving you those options when you're sitting there to charge. Push that little button here. You can go to all your different adjustability here. You can see there's 3 different drive modes: Whisper, Engage, and Unbridled. That's the sport driving mode. There's also a propulsion sound that you can turn on and off, along with a 1-pedal drive feature. You can also adjust your driver assistance, any vehicle information, or vehicle settings, general settings, connectivity. You can also change the ambient lighting in this vehicle, which is nothing super special. It's fine, but it's nothing like what you're going to find in some premium brands. And then if you guys also want to use actual GPS, if you guys go here, you can actually pull up GPS in the vehicle by going to navigation, and there's the embedded GPS. Most of you, again, are probably going to use your phone and use your Waze or Google Maps or Apple Maps and whatnot. This system will route you to chargers along your route if you guys plan to actually use this on a longer road trip and need to actually stop to charge. There's a big volume knob here. You have your dual zone climate control down here, which is pretty easy to use. This always stays put. Your heated steering wheel is over here, one level, and then you have 3 level heated seats with an automatic function. No cooled seats again. This system still can be a little laggy when you first start it up, but for the most part, it works fairly well, and I think it still looks very impressive. It's a great size. Most of you are going to have it on the CarPlay function, which works extremely well. When I put the car into reverse, you can see there's your full 360 camera, along with your trajectory and parking sensors, along with a top-down view, along with your automatic parallel parking features. So again, that is all very, very competitive. This controls the 1-speed reduction gear transmission, where you have basically your normal P, R, N, D, and then L. No paddles on the wheel, obviously, for regen braking. That's all done from the screen. The seats are very supportive and comfortable. These are still among the better seats in the segment. They're great on longer road trips, I have to say. The glove compartment, as you can also see, is a bin style. It's damped but not lined with felt. It offers a good amount of storage as well, which is great. There's no heads-up in display in this car, but in terms of visibility, aside from the thick A-pillars, it's pretty easy to see out of this car and to see from the sides and see from the rear, although Ford does not offer a digital camera rear view mirror. But let's go ahead and hop into the back seat, because the Mach-E does offer a fairly usable back seat. Now back here, you can see it has the same thing where you have to touch this button and then it pushes the door out, which doesn't allow you to close it on yourself on accident. You have to pull the door away, which there's a little pad there to kind of grab the door and pull it towards you. In terms of the space, Ford says there's around 38 inches of legroom back here, which is actually pretty good. Only something like the Ioniq 5 technically offers 39. I think the Tesla Model Y offers just under 40 inches of legroom. So this is among the better in the segment. You can see there's still that soft touch material back here with more leather and some fake carbon fiber trim. The seats do obviously give you some flexibility where you can fold them down to expand the cargo capacity. Obviously, they don't give you the option to recline the seat, which is a shame. Some competitors, I believe, offer that recline function. But let's go ahead and get back here and show you guys the space. You can see for somebody my height, this is where I'd have the vehicle to drive. And in terms of the legroom space, there's a good amount of legroom here. There's also a completely flat floor, which is great. You have 2 USB charging ports there. You have rear seat air vents. No heated rear seats, though. The Mach-E does not offer that. You have 2 storage cubbies. And then above me here, you can see the headroom space is actually pretty good. This panoramic glass roof is very dark tinted, but there's no sunshade. So for those of you who live in like a very hot, sunny state like Florida, Arizona, you may find this to be kind of annoying, but I think the aftermarket offers like a screen cover where you can put that in if you'd like. You can see there's an armrest here that folds down, gives you 2 cup holders, and you can still use this obviously as a family car, but there is no third row obviously. But for those of you who need to use this as a family car, you can obviously fit child seats back here. There are some good features. I just wish that Ford would offer heated rear seats, especially on the upper trims. So here we are back in the Ford Mustang Mach-E. It's kind of crazy to think that this car has been on the market for almost 3 years now. And Ford is pretty much getting ready to probably do a mid-cycle refresh soon. They just revealed the 2024 Mach-E Rally Edition that will get some changes that will probably filter on into the rest of the Mach-E lineup for 2024. But it's been about 2 years since I had a chance to actually extensively test the premium model with the dual motors, with the extended range battery pack. Ford has made some changes to this car this year with some new battery chemistry, and they've updated the software a little bit. This is the second best-selling electric vehicle in the US with nearly 40,000 units sold in 2022. It is only behind the top-selling Tesla Model Y, which the Tesla outsells this car about 3 or 4 times that number versus the Mach-E. But this is still a very impressive vehicle, and I have to say, for as controversial as it was, this car has been doing extremely well for Ford at just being a great electric vehicle. And it also is a good-looking car. But I've never actually 0 to 60 tested the premium with the dual motor extended range all-wheel drive. But Ford says 4.8 seconds. Let's see what we can get in our actual testing. We've got basically 100% charge right now. There's no launch control. You just floor it. It's an unbridled. I have it basically, the propulsion sound is on. 4.93 seconds there. That's actually pretty good. Now, obviously, it's not quite as fast as Ford's claim, but still, that is pretty much what you're going to get in real-world driving for the most part. I mean, I'll retest it up ahead here on a more slightly uphill area, but 4.9 is certainly acceptable, which is kind of funny to say because that used to be like supercar territory if you look back like 20 years ago. But keep in mind the GT version, I tested that at 3.8 seconds. The performance version's around 3.7 is what I got in my actual testing. Remember, that's the vehicle that my partner and I used to drive. We had that for a full year. So you do get about a second faster 0 to 60 in the GT and GT performance, but I'd argue that this kind of power is probably like the most that anybody could ever want. But let's go ahead and try it here again. We'll just floor it. You can definitely feel this car could feel faster off the line, but we got 5.13 there. That's excellent performance. Now, if you're going to compare this car to the Hyundai Ioniq 5, a limited all-wheel drive that I tested earlier this year, that will do it in 4.6 seconds. So the Mach-E is about a half a second slower than the Hyundai and Kia twins, but this is quicker versus the Toyota BZ4X and Subaru Solterra. I think I got 5.7 in those vehicles, so this car is about almost a second faster than those vehicles, and this is also quicker versus the Volkswagen ID4. Now, Volkswagen is putting a newer, more powerful electric motor on the ID4 for 2024, which we haven't had a chance to test out yet, but this thing feels plenty quick. I mean, it's got nearly 350 horsepower, 428 pound-feet of torque, and it feels like it has the acceleration performance of a Mustang. Now, obviously, the Mustang name has always been very controversial. I pretty much just tell people, think of this car as a Mach-E. Ignore the Mustang part. The Mustang part is what gave this vehicle really excellent proportions, a good-looking design, and a more sporty pretension, a more sporty vibe. But if you think of it as a Mach-E, this is where the Mach-E is an excellent electric car, because it's built off of a modified platform of the Ford Edge architecture that was incorporated to basically accommodate a skateboard battery architecture. So it feels low, and it has a low center of gravity. The car is nearly 5,000 pounds, so it definitely feels heavy. You feel the weight of the Mach-E, but it also doesn't feel like super heavy to where it makes the car feel like annoying to drive. It actually let the back step out there a little bit, which was kind of funny, a little unexpected. Remember, the GT will have basically a mode where you can shut off all the nannies, you can turn off the stability control, and you can get the tail to step out on that model. Although the GT, I'll be curious to see if Ford eventually removes the limiters, where they basically only give you full power acceleration for up to 5 seconds only. But let's try it here one more time. I'm gonna brake torque it this time and see if I can get a slightly faster time. And see what we can get. Let's see if we can brake faster than 4.9. Definitely doesn't do anything when you brake torque it. All right, 4.88 there. So consistent performance, good acceleration, and even though it's not among the fastest, again, Ford will easily sell you the GT and GT Performance. And you know what, with the incentives and stuff, the GT non-performance may actually be the best bet, because that's the model that'll give you basically an extra 134 horsepower for around $1,500 more. But just putting your foot down here, I'm gonna actually turn off the propulsion sound, and I'm gonna go to just engage mode. So that gets rid of that fake sound where it tries to sound like an engine, and I actually kind of prefer it without the engine sounds on, or the propulsion sound on, because it kind of gives you the full EV experience. I've got the one-pedal drive on, where this thing gives you almost kind of Tesla-like one-pedal driving, which is, you know, really great. It does take you a couple of tries to get smooth with the one pedal drive, but I appreciate that in EV. Some people don't really like it. I actually think it works really well, especially when you're looking to accelerate hard, then you want to slow down and just lift off the throttle. It's really nice. The steering in the car also feels relatively quick and responsive. The Mach-E is still on the sportier end of the spectrum. Obviously, you want to go for the GT and GT Performance if you want the best handling Mach-E, but they're also the heaviest Mach-Es. The seats, this kind of Active X material, the black with the contrasting stitching, the seats are pretty comfortable and supportive. I still wish that Ford would offer ventilated seats on this car. They don't offer ventilated seats, but the heated seat works nice. The heated steering wheel works nice. The infotainment screen, as you guys saw, also now has Apple CarPlay that's wireless. And it also takes up the full screen. Although it's kind of always had that, it got some updates in terms of the software. It works better nowadays, especially with those new upgrades that Ford has given it. It also is available with Blue Cruise. My tester is missing it. It's like a $2,500 upcharge, I believe. but we've got the full suite of driver assistance tech. This car offers true hands-free driving, although Blue Cruise still doesn't work quite as well as Ford Super Cruise, although I must admit, I haven't had a chance to fully extensively test the updated versions, but it has gotten some significantly better in something like the Lincoln Navigator, which is the last one that I drove. And then, of course, the million-dollar question, the range. This car has a pretty big battery pack, 91 kilowatt hours. I averaged around just under 3 miles per kilowatt in my week's worth of testing, and it's been in the 50-degree temperature range, and I've been averaging on a full charge in my real world testing, I was able to do around 270 to 280 miles. It was in between that, which is still excellent. Ford actually increased the range versus when this car first came out 2 years ago. It was 277 in 2022. It started out at 270. Now it's 290 miles. On a full charge, the trip computer did show 292, but in my real world testing in the colder conditions, it was doing around 270 to 280 miles, which is pretty good. That's still actually a little bit better than what I got in the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Now, keep in mind, the Hyundai has a smaller battery pack, and it also charges significantly faster. So if you do need to stop and charge that vehicle, you're going to you'll charge in about half the time it takes the Mach-E, but the Mach-E, because of its big battery pack, it does allow you to actually go further on a full charge. The Tesla Model Y still has better range versus this car, but again, I haven't had a chance to really extensively test a dual motor non-performance. That's the one that'll do, I think, around 330 miles of range. So yeah, the Mach-E, even though it is, it's been on the market for a couple of years, I still think this is easily worth a look. It has a sportier vibe. It has a attractive styling on the outside. It has competitive range figures, average charging speeds on a level 3 fast charger. It's got a great interior with great tech in it, a practical interior, and it just looks really great. I think the Mach-E looks fantastic, and Ford has also been lowering the price over the last few years to kind of compete with Tesla. We'll talk about that in the conclusion, but I think for the money and for the technology and for the level or the amount of range and for the performance, I think the Mach-E is still pretty much up there among the best, and there's a reason why this car continues to be the second best-selling long-range premium EV on the market. So even though the Ford Mustang Mach-E is no longer the freshest option in the premium long-range electric SUV space, I have to say, after spending a week with the 2023 model, which again, this vehicle looks pretty much the same on the outside, but it did get some small software tweaks and some new option packages to give it a little bit more of a unique look. Personally, I think this is still one of the most attractive looking mid-size long-range electric SUVs out there, especially when you compare it to the blob that the Tesla Model Y is. This car definitely will still turn a lot of heads. This new carbonized gray exterior color is not my personal cup of tea, but when it's clean with the metallic fleck and these, two-tone machine and black painted wheels, it definitely still is an attractive SUV. If you guys want a brighter color, remember you can still get this car in Grabber Blue. Ford also just introduced Grabber Yellow for 2024 on the Mustang Mach-E Rally Edition. And in terms of the performance, with the dual electric motors and that extended kilowatt-hour battery pack, or that extended range battery pack, I got 0 to 60 consistently in 4.9 seconds, which is quick. It's quick enough for most people, but still not the fastest. Obviously, the GT is going to give you that additional 134 horsepower, and I think it's actually worth every penny, especially when you're looking at the price point. In terms of charging speed, this is average. It charges pretty much average at home. Most of you will end up charging at home as well. You can still take this vehicle on a longer road trip, but just know that you'll be stopping to charge for about twice the amount of time as something like a Tesla or a Hyundai Ioniq 5 or Kia EV6. The backseat space is still pretty practical. The front trunk is among the biggest in the segment, and the rear cargo area is also pretty average. In terms of the handling, does it feel like a Mustang SUV? Yes and no, because again, that heavy weight, the low center of gravity, it does feel like every other, long-range heavy SUV that happens to be fully electric. Get the GT performance if you guys want the most agile handling Mach-E, although that one is also the heaviest model. In terms of the pricing of this vehicle, this is where the Mach-E gets very interesting, because there was a point in time where Ford made the Mach-E considerably more expensive. In fact, I remember when my fiance and I actually bought one of these vehicles, you could essentially get a GT performance trim. The one that we got was just under $70,000. There was a time where Ford upped the price by about $8,000, where it was almost $80,000 to get one of these. However, because Tesla has been basically dropping their prices continuously this year, A lot of the other brands had to respond, and Ford also did the same thing with the Mach-E, and now you can get one of these for just under $43,000, around $42,600 for the base Select, at around $3,000 if you guys want all-wheel drive. Now, there was a time if you guys wanted the extended range battery pack, you had to spend around $8,600. Now it's around $7,000 extra. The premium starts at under $50,000. This is a premium trim, so $49,900 basically for the premium. Add all-wheel drive in the extended range battery pack, and my tester here with the destination charge comes to around just under $60,000, $59,900. Now keep in mind, that is before any kind of federal tax credits or dealer incentives. Currently, as of this filming, we are basically just into November. Ford is offering a rebate on the Mach-E here in the US where you can get up to $6,250 in terms of a rebate from the dealership on GT and GT Performance trims. This model here gets you around $4,250 in terms of dealer cash, which basically means you can take that off of the $59,900 sticker price. So you're looking at around mid $50,000, which sounds very enticing. There was a time where this Mach-E was asking around $67,000 before Ford seriously discounted the price to respond to Tesla. And the Mach-E, because it is built in Mexico, although the battery mineral sourcing doesn't qualify, this vehicle does qualify for the $3,750 tax credit. So when you factor that in with the rebate, you're looking at around, just under or just over $50,000 for this model that I'm showing you here. Now that brings an interesting question, because you could essentially go to a GT trim, a non-performance trim, which starts at around $59,900, which is actually the same price as this car, just looking at the MSRP. But then when you factor in the fact that the GT has that $6,250 rebate, which is $2,000 extra, you could technically go from this trim to a GT non-performance for only around $1,800 more. I think that's actually a worthy upcharge. And for those of you who need that extra, or who didn't think you wanted the extra performance, I think for an extra $2,000, the GT is worth every penny. The GT Performance is like another $5,000 on top of that, which gets expensive. Also keep in mind that something like the Hyundai Ioniq 5 limited dual motor all-wheel drive is around $59,000 as well. The Tesla Model Y, however, is the interesting option because it's super cheap. That car currently, as of this filming, is around just under $50,000. You can technically get a Performance Model Y for around $53,000. So that's where the Tesla's, very low price becomes very enticing. But again, keep in mind, if you guys don't want a Tesla, there's too many of them out there on the road. The 2023 Ford Mustang Mach-E is certainly still worth a look. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2023 Ford Mustang Mach-E in this premium trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.